We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joy in my house, joy, I got joy.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality show with a touch of recovery. A reality show where nothing is left unsaid and no one who shares is insignificant. I don't have my co-host today, Lolita Robinson, an author of Shaped by the Master's Hand. She's at home with her daughter, doing some time with her, which is I find it super important, but I want to thank you for joining me this Sunday live here on LA Talk Live on Joy in My House. We always like to touch on the joy that we have here in our house, but I hope to hear some of your joys in your house. I know that during the holiday season, we get very busy, but coming January, how are you preparing yourself for the new year? As many people do, we start slowing down. We start focusing back on work, focusing back on school. But I hope that you're taking time for yourself. I hope that you're also focusing on you. I think it's important for us to realize that the joys that we have in our house are sometimes look very small or they look insignificant, but they're not, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to thank you for being a part of the joy that we have in our house here. Because last week we had a great show for you. We had Linda Griffin from Fulfillment for Life on hearing God's voice, on hearing God in her life. And it's so significant for us to have people speak into our lives and direction in our lives. For me, God has been very prevalent in speaking to me and giving me direction, always arranging me with the right people to meet, because today we have a great show for you. But that testimony, that story of Mrs. Griffin coming on and how every point of her life, every transition, every next step in her life, she heard God's voice. I hope that you out there listening and viewing have the opportunity to have people speak into your life, to hear God in your life and give you that direction for whatever next step is for you. You know, you can follow us on Facebook /Joy in My House. If you like the Facebook fan page, you receive up-to-date lineups of guests and information. We also have a Twitter page where you can tweet us with any questions or comments for myself or for my guest. And we also have an Instagram page where you can follow us on Instagram. You can also find more information on our website, joyinmyhouse.com. Know that we're live here every Sunday at noon on www.latalklive.com. And there's an array of shows here, not just this one on Sunday. So please tune in and listen in. We have a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm excited to give this teaser. Steve Orosco, a pro MMA fighter, entrepreneur, and the founder of Smash Global Entertainment is going to be here, and he's going to share with us some of his life. And I hope that you out there who are listening and viewing get to be a part of this. Send me any questions or comments via Twitter. Shoot me via Facebook. We're live right now, so for any questions or comments, please feel free. This is an amazing show and an amazing opportunity for us to hear about people's lives and for them to be transparent, to share the things that they do in their careers to get them to that next plateau. And if you're one of those people that need a little bit of inspiration, need a little bit of hope, this is a show for you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned, because when we come back, we're going to come back with Steve Orosco, pro MMA fighter and founder of Smash Global Entertainment. You are not going to want to miss. Stay tuned.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramiez.
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com.
Inspirational radio,
with a touch of recovery.
a reality show where nothing is left unsaid,
And no one is insignificant who says it.
exclusively on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by my in-studio guest, Steve. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to thank you for coming on. Steve Orosco is a pro MMA fighter. He is also an entrepreneur, but you're also the founder of Smash Global Entertainment.
Yes, I am.
So I want to thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on and share with our audience and viewers a little bit of your story and a little bit of hope and inspiration. I want to thank you for that. I always like to let our audience and viewers know how we met.
Yeah.
We met through Sharon Doyle. She's worked with you on a couple of projects, and she's a / publicist, and she networked me with you and said you would be great with them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why?
Yeah.
He said, you guys are just driven. You guys have the same attitude, and you guys need to come together because you had Smash Global 6 coming up at that time.
Yeah, there was a Smash Global 6
It was
back
one
in
of your
September.
events. And I didn't get a chance to be a part of that and come on board, even though I wanted to, my schedule too. But it's interesting how God sets everything up at the right time in the right way, because now you're on the show.
I 100% agree with that.
Well, it's interesting. We also like to let our audience and viewers get to know you a little bit, Steve, and as you share your story, I hope that you out there listening and viewing get an opportunity to say, I'm getting a sneak peek into Steve Orozco's story. We're not glamorizing sometimes, when I share my struggles, my alcoholism, my womanizing, my pregnancies out of wedlock and all my dysfunction. It's not glorifying it. We're trying to let you know that we all struggle. We all come from a certain walk that has challenged us, and sometimes we don't make the best decisions, but sometimes that prepares us for where we are today. And that's what we're going to talk about with Steve today. So let us know, where were you born, Steve?
Small town kid in New England, Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How long were you there for?
I was there until I was 18, pretty much my whole entire life until I went to college.
So you were raised there.
I was raised, yes.
How was growing up there?
Newport, I got to say, I had a good childhood. Newport is a really good place to raise a family.
Mm-hmm.
New England is it's very family centric.
Mm-hmm.
People, it's like one big village. The whole,
wow.
It takes a village to raise a child.
Wow.
All the parents police each other, and it's definitely a good place to raise a family.
Now I understand your post that you put about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
Yes.
Because I am not a fan of Tom Brady. I'm not a fan of New England.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certain people that I feel when you jump on the bandwagon,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of respect for them, for
Yeah.
those fans. But you know what? They're fans. They're true fans. I'm not going to say they're not fans. But when I hear somebody that comes from New England
Yeah.
and is a fan, I can respect that so much
And
more.
I always be the one to admit that, as an 80s kid, back in the 80s, we're talking like Steve Grogan and Andre Tippett.
There you go.
I mean, I wasn't a
Andre
Patriots
Tippett.
fan then. I
Mhm.
was a Niners fan because I have an uncle in San Francisco. So the Niners are my team,
Mhm.
but I will always root for my hometown
Yeah,
team.
your hometown
I have
team.
to. And good thing that they're in different divisions, different conferences.
There you go. Same with Dodgers and Angels. I'm a
Yeah.
Dodger fan, diehard Dodger fan. But I root for the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
still part of my hometown.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
And let's talk about growing up. Growing up, did you grow up with two parents in the household?
Partially.
Mhm.
My parents were together until I was 12. Then
Oh,
they
wow.
got divorced. A lot of infidelity in the home.
Mm.
Typical, So they got divorced. I also have at the time, my sister was 2.
Wow.
So I know it was a struggle for my mom. My mom, worked, 2 jobs.
Wow.
She struggled. My father was still in our life, but he ended up moving to Connecticut
Mm.
a couple years later. The onus was really on my mom then.
Wow.
But I have to say that they were both amazing parents. They did a great job at separating their marital issues
Good for
and
them.
the children. Like I never once saw them fight ever,
Wow.
not once. It was really bizarre because me and my wife fight, sometimes, and it doesn't matter if my son's in the room or not.
I feel you on that. I tend to, I had a girlfriend at the time, and there was so much craziness and dysfunction, and I think it was our personal issues. It wasn't things that actually we were doing, but it was our personal issues, things we had to deal with ourselves. But I remember thinking, all right, we can't fight in front of the kids, but something would trigger me, and I was again. So for your
heat of the
parents,
moment.
yeah,
Yeah.
we tend to have that. I think as fighters, we tend to have that. All right, put us, slap us around a little bit, or eventually we're gonna attack. And it's interesting that your parents didn't. That's amazing because they did the best they could with the situation that they had.
Yeah, my father's definitely a super alpha,
There
and my
go.
mom is just a very strong woman. And what's crazy was, the reason why they got divorced was for, infidelity reasons. My father was never faithful. But my mom was the kind of woman who she knew he would always come home to her. And any women that he was with, he didn't love them. So he didn't bother her too much. So she kind of let things go and turned a blind eye, like a lot of women do for their family. But there came a point, I guess, when I was 11 or 12, that he actually had an affair. And then she found out that it was more than just sex. And then that was it. That was a
turning point for her.
That was a turning point.
Well, I got to ask you, that's got to be difficult for you, especially as a 12-year-old. You're starting to get into your teen years.
Yes.
My youngest daughter right now is 12, and she struggles. She's going to a new school, and she's trying to figure her way out, and she's very beautiful and very talented. But I see that, but at that age, it's such a difficult thing to see. So how were you at 12 years old? You find out this is going on. How was school at the time?
I actually had some trouble in school. My middle school years were my hardest years. I was a D and C student.
Wow.
I never attributed it to the single family home and the things that were going on. But looking back now, it was definitely an issue. Not having a father figure in your home is a big deal.
Right.
Bigger than most people think. And I actually have. You talk about having kids out of wedlock. I was married once before, and so I have a daughter in Connecticut. And she actually just turned 12, which is crazy.
Wow.
But I got divorced when she was 2.
Wow.
And so I'm starting to feel that struggle now that, she's 12 years old. She's hard to get on the phone. She doesn't return my text messages. I tell my wife, maybe we should move back to Connecticut. And,
oh, wow.
It gets hard.
Well, what's interesting is my daughter, she can be in the other room and she won't return my text messages.
Yeah.
Because my daughter's out of wedlock and she lives in San Diego. So I
Yeah.
pick her up every other Friday, and I have clients that I also train on Friday. So I drive from Orange County to San Diego and then to South Pasadena, and then Sunday back to San Diego.
Wow.
But I've been blessed with her mom. Her mom is very cool. This weekend I went and we all hang out and had dinner, and there's no relationship there, just a friendship and a co-parenting. And it's nice, and then she got ready. She had a date that she was going to go on. And I was like, I'm very blessed to have the people that I have in my life because I'm able to share a little bit of time with her, some family time, and touch on issues that maybe I wouldn't been able to touch on that she's telling me, hey, she's struggling in school. How are we going to attack this? Tutoring. And those opportunities are amazing. So I can only imagine that you're wanting to touch base with your daughter, but being so far away, it has its toll.
It does have its toll. And it's also I don't want to say regret, but sometimes you feel guilty.
Guilt,
now that I'm remarried and I have a son who I love to death.
Right.
He's 4 years old and I give him everything. And I kind of feel like I don't want her to ever feel like she's number 2.
Right.
So now
She's not.
She's not.
No.
So even on like Instagram, I don't post any of my kids on there anymore because it's like I feel like my daughter sees me posting too much about my son, then she might feel like a little jaded by that. So it's definitely difficult, and then I feel bad that I wasn't there.
Right.
The way I'm there for my son. Like I'm there for him all day, every day, and I don't have that same relationship with my daughter.
You know what I think? But God will set it up to where you eventually will. As she gets older, as she realizes that you are making an effort and that you are wanting that connection with her, she might have resentment for it, and we all have hurt, because I have the same guilt with my kids.
Yeah.
2 different mothers, 3 kids, and I have a granddaughter as well. And I find sometimes myself, I'm spending too much time with this one, or am I spending too much time with this one, or am I giving this one not enough attention? And it's difficult because as males, we want to be there for our daughters as men. but it's so difficult because they are also girls and women.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
they can shut us out in a heartbeat, and we can barely deal with our relationships with our partners,
Yeah.
let alone our relationship with our young girls, which I find it a struggle too. I find it quite a challenge.
I agree with that.
Well, let's talk about your growing up, your adolescent years. Did you struggle with any dysfunction? Or I know for me, my family, my parents were well-to-do parents. They were upper middle class. My father was a professor teaching physics, came to this country with 12 brothers and sisters and put himself through college and became a professor, got his master's in physics. My mother had her own business, not speaking the language, being Mexican, started her own salon and had a full salon, running it all herself. So they were ambitious. But with me, they worked so hard that I feel that they weren't emotionally there. They provided for me everything. I went to a college preparatory school. I went to St. John Bosco out here, a very prominent all-boys school, an athlete. But emotionally, I struggled. I don't know what it was. I was searching for something. I know now I was searching for something bigger than myself, which I found Jesus, and that fills that hole. But back then, I really didn't know what I was searching for, but I was never fulfilled. Did you have that struggle during your adolescence, going to school and searching who you were?
You know, I never, unfortunately, this is the only question that isn't very exciting, but I never really had struggle. I come from two parents that complete different dichotomies as well. My father's from Trinidad, you know, I don't want to say below the poverty line, but, you know, pretty much.
Right.
And my mother she's from Massachusetts, and an affluent family where you're known by your last name, you know, like the Kennedys and the Hopes kind of thing. And when she moved to Newport, Rhode Island, she went to Salve Regina College. That's where she met my father. And when she met him, when her family found out that she was dating a black man, they completely disowned her. They made her choose. I mean, literally choose. So she went from having money to living with my father in Section 8 housing, you know? And it wasn't until they had me that her family was like, come home. We want to meet our grandkid.
Part of your life.
You know, and so I did, you know, it's so funny how things work in hindsight. You don't see things as a kid, but even when I got older, I always wonder, I'm like, how come my father never went to
family functions,
my grandparents' house or anything? He always just stayed home. And like, now I realize why. Because I probably wouldn't either.
Right.
You know?
You don't want to feel that you're being judged. Just the opposite. As a family, especially now you being born, acceptance is important for everybody.
Important.
Because then it segments the family. And like you said, it takes a village to raise somebody.
Oh my God, yes it does.
Well, let's talk about your schooling. You were struggling during those years. Did you play any sports?
Wrestling. Wrestling was my first. My mother was my first love. Wrestling was my second.
So you wrestled. Good for you.
Yeah,
at a young age.
Very young age. And I tried other sports. I mean, I always played soccer. I tried football. Funny thing is, even though I love to fight, I hated football. So I tried Pop Warner.
You know what? Same here. I agree with you.
I remember getting hit, and I was like, this isn't for me. But it's different when you can get hit and hit back. I don't know what it is.
I struggle with the same thing. I was in varsity football, my varsity wrestling my freshman year.
Yep.
I was always wrestling. I was already doing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu at the time, and I was very, very young. And I remember also wrestling season, and I had Hell Week for wrestling season, and I had Hell Week for football. And I remember, you know, hitting people, and I was like, oh, this is not too bad. But then, like, running and letting them hit me, I wasn't too happy with that. I was like, no, I wanna flip them. I wanna grab them and slam them and then move on. And it just, I'm more of a hands-on kind of guy.
Yeah, football is just a collision sport.
Right, exactly,
You
a
know,
collision sport.
That wasn't for me. I didn't like it at all, at all.
Now, were you successful in your wrestling high school?
So no, I mean, so my freshman year, I was on varsity, not because I earned it, but because there was no one at 103 pounds that year, and I won my first match, you know, and I thought I was amazing. I was, oh my God, this is easy. And then I lost every single match for the rest of the year. So I don't know, I went like 1-15 or something. And I don't know what it was. I loved wrestling so much. I didn't care if I lost. Like the failure of it wasn't a big deal. I just kept on striving and just coming back for more. I loved the training. I loved the discipline. It was like the first thing that, it's like what got me up in the morning, win or lose.
That's amazing, you know, that at such a young age you found your passion. Because that's what passion is. It doesn't matter the accolades that you get from it. It's just you're just driven. It just sucks you in. I was the same with the martial arts. I mean, I left my high school preparatory school. I was a sophomore going into my junior year, and I told my father, I don't want to go to school anymore. He's
Okay.
like, what? He's like, you know what I had to go through to get to where I'm at? And I said, yeah, my passion is teaching martial arts. I already had my black belt. I was already teaching 2 out of the 4 classes at the academy. And my master saw a lot of promise in me. So he mentored me, took me under. And I was like, Dad, I don't want to go to school anymore. And he didn't know what to say. He's like, you're going to school. And
You're not
slowly
that-
but surely.
Not that generation.
Yeah, exactly. But slowly but surely, I let go of my schooling. He's like, why am I paying all this college preparatory money for this amazing school? You're not going to it.
Yeah.
Put me in a public school. And then I ended up not even going to school, just going straight to the academy. And next thing I know, my master calls my mom up, and my mom tells him off and tells him, how can you take my son? And he's like, he came to me. What do you want me to do? At least you have me giving him direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up living with them, and I started running my own academy when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of sad that the majority of the world doesn't get to find their passion. And most people don't realize, I think everyone has a superpower. Like, I firmly believe that. But not many people get to find it. I could be absolutely amazing at ping pong.
Right,
Be the
right.
next champion, but I've never picked up a ping pong paddle. You know, the Michael Jordans of basketball. What if Tiger Woods never picked up a golf club?
That's right.
Everyone has something in them, but the chances of you finding it is like winning the lottery.
It really is. So that, we're talking about how lucky we were to find our passion. I'm still trying to find the next evolution of what I do. Even though I'm very passionate about teaching, I think teaching has been in my blood. My father was a professor. My grandfather in Mexico ran a elementary school. He was a teacher. And obviously I didn't go into the teaching of educating academia, but I went into teaching martial arts, and I've been doing it for 22 years. I've been training for 26, I think 27 years. It's all I know.
Yeah.
And I still have a passion for doing it. I had a student just message me on Friday telling me, I want to thank you for the influence that you put in my son. He's getting his 3rd degree black belt.
Wow.
And he was testing. He was sitting down outside my old academy in Fullerton. And I just thought, wow, I'm glad that I got to touch their lives, to be a part of it, even for a split moment, to give them that direction that my master gave me.
Martial arts, man. There's something about martial arts that you can't even explain it. The way it empowers you, the way it makes you feel. It's like the one thing that can bring people together. You know, like politics and I don't want to say that. I shouldn't say this on here, but religion.
But yeah, religion.
Religion
I
are the
agree.
2 biggest dividers in this world. They cause the most. They bring people together, but they also cause such a divide.
Yeah.
Martial arts is literally the only thing that, when you walk on that mat and you start training, doesn't matter your color, doesn't matter how much money you have,
Exactly.
doesn't matter who you voted for. You guys are like brothers, your family.
Yeah. And I think the nobility of it also that it instills, it teaches us to go back to some of our real roots of loving one another.
Agreed.
And that I think that's one thing that for me, and we're gonna get to this, but MMA lacks. I want to see more of the martial artists in having the respect for other people, but with organizations like UFC and Dana White just promoting the sensation of it, I think it loses some of its nobility. Even though I think it's noble, 2 warriors get in a cage and it's who's the best one for that night. I get that, but I wish there was a little bit more nobility of that and stop sensationalizing the drama.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but I wanted to talk about something that I thought was so profound in your life, and that is your college career. What made you want to go to college?
Parents.
There you go.
You know, like I'm 37, so I feel like, my generation, college was everything. You know, your parents is like, my father never went to college, never got an education. So for him, it was, I was gonna be the first one to ever get an education. My mother's side, it was, my mom went to Yale after Salve to get her master's.
Wow.
My grandfather went to Babson, which is one of the top business schools in the country, and my great grandfather went to MIT. So education was everything on that side of the family. So for me, it was, I wanted to be a Wall Street guy. So I majored in finance, went to Pace University, which is literally 3 blocks from Wall Street. If I want to be on Wall Street, it'll be as close as I can get. So I went there, I graduated, I worked on Wall Street for a couple of years, and then I got recruited by a firm in Connecticut that brought me there. And while I was there, I went back to school again, and I got my MBA and my MS.
Wow.
And
well,
that's-
congratulations
thank
on
you.
that. That is definitely
Thank you.
amazing. What kept you going at that time? You know, college is so difficult. My daughter's at a junior college right now, and she's 20 years old, my oldest, and she has a baby. So she's struggling where she has to take care of the baby
Mhm.
and put herself through school. She just got laid off from her job. And financially, we can help her as a family. That's not the problem. But the problem is really staying driven. What kept you driven to get your MBA, to get your master's degree? Tell us about that.
I mean, I've always been a goal-oriented person.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not a quitter, even when, like in wrestling. I want to attribute everything in my life to the sport of wrestling, which I think is a martial art as well. It's just made me the person I am, and I just never had to motivate myself to do well in school.
Mhm.
I just woke up, went to school, came home, studied, and went to class.
You just had that discipline.
Yeah.
Right now, my kids are like, you're so disciplined in the things you do, and you're so structured. I need that structure, first of all, because I'm an ex-addict, and once an addict, always an addict. So I need that structure to feel safe. But that structure has also given me opportunities to do bigger and better things because you're disciplined. When you're undisciplined, you go wherever the wind takes you. And one day
Yes.
you're doing this, next day you're doing this. You're a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And
Go with the flow. My wife is go with the flow. That's one where we're really different. I'm
Oh,
like
good.
very OCD, extremely organized. She's kind of just like, we'll just,
we'll wing it.
yeah, we'll wing it. Whatever happens, happens.
But it's funny how God does compliment.
Yeah.
That's why a man and a woman are work so well together. We're so polar opposites at times, but then we just kind of one tempers the other.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wanted to talk about your MMA career because you're on Wall Street. You're right on Wall Street. Actually, you're going to school there. You go and you get your MBA. You get your master's. You want to be a stockbroker. What made you go into the direction of MMA fighting?
So at the time, I was training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I had found Jiu-Jitsu when I was in Connecticut, a place called Ultimate MMA, and I fell in love with it. It just became natural. When you're a wrestler, transitioning into Jiu-Jitsu is easy.
Right.
On your back takes a minute, but you're always on top. And when you're a good wrestler, you're usually always on top. And I just completely fell in love with it.
You know, I find a lot of the fighters that I train or the fighters that I manage, the ones that do the best don't have a martial arts background. They actually have a wrestling background.
Yeah.
They're the ones that have done the best. And even in historic, if you look at all the fighters that are champs that have longevity, have all been wrestlers.
Yeah, and I really think it's, again, the discipline, the accountability, knowing how to work hard, being relentless. It really sets you up for a good foundation for MMA.
And that's what I was going to say. It sets such an amazing foundation for mixed martial arts.
Yeah. And wrestlers too, you know, if you're in high school, you have about 100 to 150 matches. You wrestle in college, that's another 150 matches. I mean, you're talking stepping on the mat 300 times and competing. Yep. So by the time MMA comes around, the competition part isn't that difficult.
Right. The pressure of the competition, right. And I think, you know, a lot of it is mental. You know, when you're unprepared or you feel unprepared and you're not comfortable. A couple of my fighters that went from doing a King of the Cage to Bellator or from, these small leagues to the next league, they struggle a little bit in the beginning because they're trying to find their footing. I always compare it to football. College ball, your holes to run through are about that big. You go to NFL, they're about that big.
Very true.
So it's kind of the same set when it comes to getting to the next, I guess, tier, the next level of MMA. The guys are just a little quicker. The guys are hit just a little harder, and it's a learning curve.
Big time.
And I want to talk about that with you because you had 8 pro fights.
Yes.
7 wins, 1 loss. We'll talk about that 1 loss a little bit later, but I wanted to talk about that. Tell us about your MMA career.
It was a struggle. I mean, I turned pro, I think I was 31. I was like 30 or 31 years old. And again, this was because I can kind of take a step back. I went through my divorce and I was in Connecticut. And again, I was training at the time. And going through that divorce process, I decided I wanted to change everything with my life.
Wow.
So that's why I left finance. I wanted to be a pro fighter. So just like my rationale of going to Wall Street and finance, I said, let me go to the Mecca for mixed martial arts. At the time, if you asked me in 2009, it was San Diego. So many gyms, so many people.
Right.
Drove across country, started training at the boxing club, had a couple amateur fights, and then turned pro a year later.
Wow.
It's absolutely amazing. So, but during the process, the hardest thing about MMA for me was the ability to stay healthy. 3 knee surgeries.
Oh, wow.
2 shoulder surgeries. Broken hand, broken foot, almost like the Dominic Cruz effect, all within, a 4-year period.
Wow.
So it's like you fight and you win, you fight, you win. All of a sudden you get hurt, you're out for 6 months, and you fight, you got to get back into shape. It's difficult.
I can only imagine because, working with my fighters, the one thing I tell them is you got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
What good is it if sometimes you want to be pushed, they want to train more. And one of the most common factors for fighters not fighting is because they overtrain and then they get injured. And I tell them, what good is it if you're not going to fight anyways? So let me train you the way I can train you, the way I know how to keep you healthy. There's so much technique. There's so much you can learn. There's no need to overtrain.
True.
If your arm is hurt, we don't need to use that arm. Let's focus on something else. Working on your legs, work on your footwork, your kicking. No, they just want to overtrain. They feel that they're going to lack something.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is they re-injure the injury. They never let it heal. And then they don't even fight at all.
True. Sometimes overtraining makes you feel more mentally prepared as well. It's the whole moniker of, I got to train harder than my opponent.
Right.
While he's sleeping, I'm training, but this day and age, man, guys are bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
So when you're actually in practice with your teammates, like my last fight camp was at Alliance MMA. Guys like Jeremy Stevens and Dominic Cruz and Michael Chandler, and it was a war every day. And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder why I was hurt all the time,
Right.
It was a fight day in and day out.
Yeah. And I wanted to talk about this because I think this is very important, especially for my fighters, is that I speak life into them. As a martial arts master, I look at what happened to Ronda Rousey. Her identity was in being a champ, not being a fighter. And I feel that when she took her loss, she had lost her identity. And I blame that all on her master, her trainer. He needed to speak life into her, not just saying, you're undefeatable, you'll never lose. Because that happened to Tyson too.
Yeah.
His coach was all about, you're Iron Mike. Nothing can break you. Nothing can break. And then when he got broken, he went to this deep depression. And I think the same thing happened with Ronda, where her identity was being a champ, not a fighter, or not what we call a martial artist. When you're a martial artist, you take your losses and you go back in the ring. She had such a hard time, and I felt so bad for her. But I attribute that to her master. As the master of my fighters, the master of my students, is I got to speak life into them and let them know that it's okay to lose. Actually, you need to lose.
Have to.
And I got to ask you, who was profound in your uprearing in your MMA fights? Who was there in your corner that made you feel like, you know what, it's okay? Because in wrestling, you were self-motivated.
Yep.
Did you have somebody like that in your life during your MMA career?
Actually, my right-hand man is my best friend, and his name is Ron Casper. We grew up together in New England, and we were in competing high schools, and we became best friends because our high school sweethearts were best friends. And this kid was the most athletic monster ever, like all-state football, all-state track, just could run a 4.2 40, just one of those athletes, played college football. And even he actually moved to San Diego maybe 8 years before I did. And he ended up falling in love with boxing, and he started working at the boxing club. And I would go out to visit him, and I would train there. And I started falling in love with Muay Thai then, because San Diego, so many guys doing Muay Thai. So Muay Thai, kickboxing, and he always put it in my ear. He said, you should move to San Diego one day and fight. So it was always in the back of my head, and I think that's when I got divorced. I said, I literally packed my bags and just drove across country.
Wow.
And he was in my corner for every single fight.
Amen
every
to
single
that.
fight here, except for Australia. But he was in my corner.
Wow. Well, I wanted to talk about your most difficult fight. Tell us about the hardest fight you had in the octagon.
Hands down, my loss.
Your loss. I was going to say, I wasn't sure, but...
when you talk about the mental part of things, it was the first time I ever felt alone.
Wow.
Where the home field advantage is a serious thing. At time I was 7-0. I thought I was, indestructible. And I had a goal in my mind. I said, I got to get to 10-0, then the UFC. So I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing now and get there. But then I got the call to fight the number one kid in Australia that I think was gonna kind of catapult me faster. I think he was 16-4 at the time.
Wow.
They're like, hey, why don't you be on this main event and fight this kid Nick Patterson? I'm like, yeah, sure. Go to Australia, get a vacation,
Right.
get to travel the world.
Got to
And I
put
got-
this on my resume.
Yeah,
Another notch on my belt.
Yeah, and I couldn't say no to that because one thing I always said, it was either UFC or the ability to travel to another country and fight would be amazing. So I get there and I feel amazing, except I had to lose like 22 pounds in 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was literally, I flew back. I flew out the day after Thanksgiving. I had a good Thanksgiving. For whatever reason, water retained on the plane. So 22 pounds in 2 days. I got there though. I felt amazing. I cut the weight. It killed me, but no excuses, man. Like I felt great that night. The next night I went from 156 to cut down. The next day I was 183 when I stepped in the ring.
I
It was
believe it.
huge. So I thought I was going to kill this kid. And, I'm walking out and Australians are very intense, screaming my name, F America. And,
Wow.
for me though, I liked it. It felt
Right.
empowering.
Yeah.
I get
You're going to go there and prove something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So in Australia, it was a ring. So I get in the ring, and then he comes out. They're all screaming his name, and I was like, "Okay, he has a lot of fans here."
He's got that fan
And then
base.
he's in his corner, and then they yell my name. Everyone's booing when they're doing the announcements. And then when they yelled his name, when the announcer said his name, it was crazy. I mean, the ring literally shook under my feet, and I'm looking across the ring. I wish I'd even look at him. I saw that glimmer in his eye, like there's no way I'm losing.
Wow.
And I remember being like saying to myself, "Oh shit."
Do you think he won the fight at that point already?
Yes, I do. When the bell rang, I came out, and I usually come out very hard and aggressive, like a wrestler. I want to get the fight to the ground as fast as I can. And with him, it was like I was throwing pitter patter kick, pitter patter punches. I threw all of them for the first 30 seconds just to kind of feel them out instead of doing what I normally do.
So you kind of got in your head, just one misstep by you, and then he kind of controlled the fight.
Yes.
You know what? I was going to fight in Thailand. I was going to do my last fight in Thailand, and I had set everything up. I was training for it, and I called the promoter out there in Tiggy's camp. It's Muay Thai out in Phuket, and I was ready to do it. And I remember thinking, I called the promoter. I said, don't set me up with the guy with 70 fights, you know? Like, give me 15, 10 fights, something I can handle, something that'd be fun, retire after that. And the guy he sent me had like 17-0 or something like that, like just good fighter, right? But they did the same thing where they wanted the American against the guy from Thailand, and they were starting to promote it without even me signing anything or talking about finances. And I kind of got disappointed. And I have a Muay Thai coach that said, you know what, that guy, I haven't heard good things about him. You need to let it go. And I had to pray about it. And it was tough to not even show up.
Yeah.
But I think the same thing would have happened. Mentally, I think I'm a little older, a little slower. I want to do it more for fun and more just to say, all right, my last fight. But I think it would have got to me.
Yeah.
And you're talking about how it just shook under you. Shook under you. I felt like that would have happened to me. I look back on it now and I say, all right, God, I was done before I even thought about that fight.
Yep.
How was it the next day?
Oh, man. Dark and lonely. Something about losing a wrestling match isn't really a big deal, but losing a fight takes something out of you. Because like wrestling, every week you're training hard every week, but you're also having a match or two every single week. So it gets monotonous. Whereas fighting, it's like you give everything for 8 to 10 weeks for that one moment, and then you fail, and it's like all you do is reflect. You've literally given up everything. You sacrifice your family. Your wife hates you for the most time.
You're not eating. You're grumpy.
Not eating.
You're trying to sleep well. Don't bother me. And then I don't even let my fighters have sex for 2 weeks. Even though they say yes, they say no. But sometimes I think it's I do it more for a mental reason.
It is.
But at the same time, it's just tough as a family man.
Very tough. You can't spend, not that you can't spend time with your kid, but your time is really precious. To be a fighter, to be a professional athlete, you have to be so selfish. Even an entrepreneur, you have to be selfish.
Yeah.
And it's just.
And I gotta ask you, that was your fight in the octagon. What was your hardest fight outside the octagon? What is something that really challenged you outside of fighting?
Outside of fighting. I got to be honest with you. Being an entrepreneur and starting this company has been the most challenging thing ever. You know, to literally live off fumes for 2 years and not be profitable, and your fighters are probably making more money than you are, and they're not even making that much money in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, but you have to find the silver linings and know that everything happens for a reason and it's going to happen. You just have to trust the process.
Yep. Trust that process. And we'll touch on that a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, your title is Hulk Smash.
Yeah.
Tell me how that came about. I should have touched that on a little bit before, but Hulk Smash. Tell me about that.
The jiu-jitsu room. Being a wrestler, always on top. You know, if I'm on top of you, you're not getting me off of you for the most part. Just not because I'm stronger or better. Just, you know, having 15 years of just hips planted on that mat. It's hard to get a wrestler off you. They're just relentless. So when I'm in the room and it's all these just jiu-jitsu guys and I'm the wrestler, it was always just Hulk Smash. You'd always just call me Hulk Smash, just from top position.
Well, that's amazing because your new organization that you started is called Smash Global Entertainment.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. Knowing, you know, your organization, I didn't know what they called you. And now I see the correlation to it. I see the correlation.
Brought them together.
Now I got to ask you, for somebody out there who's listening and viewing, what would you say to them for someone who's trying to make a name for themselves in the fight game and trying to really put themselves out there? What would you say to them?
Man, it's such a difficult thing because when you're talking about, you know, the Ronda Rousey thing, man, I believe in being humble, right, as a fighter. Unfortunately, in America, that doesn't work if you want to make a name for yourself. It's just how it is. If you were living in Japan and or China and you're fighting for one championship, nobody talks trash. You go, you fight. There's a different embodiment. But here in this country, it's just so much different that you have to market yourself. You have to, you have to talk shit. You have to almost be an asshole, like a Ronda or Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather. And the reason why is 70% of the people that watch you fight, they want to see you lose. Only 30% want to see you win.
That's right.
So you got to tap into all those people. And the only way you can do that is by making them hate you. And that's a hard thing as a fighter. You have to have a certain personality. That's not my personality. But, you know, I have to say that's what you have to do, unfortunately. You have to train hard, but you also have to realize it's not just about what you can do in the cage. Because a lot of fighters will always say, I don't make my fighters sell tickets, but most shows do, right?
Right.
Like King of the Cage or wherever. You have to sell 20 tickets or 30 tickets. And fighters hate selling tickets. And I understand they hate it, but if you don't have a following, why does a promoter want you? So how do you get a following? Well, you have to also talk shit. I mean, it's just one of those things.
I've been blessed with, especially one of my fighters. I mean, we sell 150, 200 tickets, and that's where we make our money. But it's also teaching my fighter how to sell himself. You know, we put him on camera. He used to get real shy and shut down. Now he's very charismatic. But it's, again, all those years on the mat, all those years in front of the mic, you start being able to sell yourself. And it's sad, like you said, that they sensationalize everything now and they want you to just talk all this shit so you can sell tickets because people want to see you lose. I'm waiting for that fighter that comes out and is an honorable fighter and is this great fighter that everybody wants to beat because he's so honorable. They want to see him make a mistake. And I think those are the ones that are going to be legends. The ones that you see right now, they're great fighters and they're very talented. But because they don't have that nobility, for me, they'll never be a legend. Because we're known in boxing, some of the legends, they were great men of character. And I think that's what MMA right now is missing, that one legend. And it was getting close with a couple of fighters, but in MMA, as we all know, it's so volatile. Anybody can knock you out of
Too many ways to lose, which is what was always scary about me talking any trash. Because you know it only takes one small clip and it's good night. But I will say, as far as like the humble fighters, the only one that I can say is close would be like GSP. Amazing fighter, never talks trash. Actually shows too much respect to his person he's fighting.
I agree.
You know?
But I like that. That is why I'm a big fan of GSP.
Oh, me too.
Amazing. Bows, you know, it's very respectful. And I like that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to find out about Smash Global Entertainment and how this is a new MMA lifestyle. You're not going to want to miss. This is Joy in my house. I want you to stay tuned. We're going to come right back.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Marsha Waiteka, inviting you to join me every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for Born to Talk, where conversations plus connections equals community. This is the heart of my show each week as my guests share their stories, from nonprofits, authors, sports figures, travel experts, and much more. If you have a story to tell, I want to share it. Don't forget to tune in to Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on latalklive.com. And you can watch live on Facebook and Twitter. If you missed the live show, check out my website, borntotalkradioshow.com, where you can watch on demand. Born to Talk every Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific, where conversations plus connections equals community. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality show with a touch of recovery. A reality show where nothing is left unsaid and no one who shares is insignificant. I'm joined here by our in-studio guest, Steve Orosco. Welcome back to the show.
Still happy to be here, that's for sure.
Steve is a pro MMA fighter, and he's also an entrepreneur and the founder of Smash Global Entertainment. Welcome back to the show, and I got to ask, Smash Global Entertainment, why did you start this organization in such a competitive industry right now with King of the Cage, with Bellator, with UFC, and now even the Japanese coming in and bringing, the evolution of Strikeforce and all these new organizations?
I guess it all started after my loss, right? I was in Australia. I'm by myself. I remember that night I was in the room, pitch black. Again, I was alone. I would know what to do with myself. I just came to the realization I was done. 34 years old. There's no way I was ever going to be the next GSP. That's too late in the game. But I still wanted to be in the game. Like, I love the sport. I love everything about it. But so I asked myself, what can I do to make it better? And the one thing that I hate about my sport, and I have no disrespect to anyone listening, based on your economic status, but MMA is a very NASCAR crowd. It's a $25 ticket crowd. People wearing tap-out T-shirts, Bud Lights in the front row, and there were times where I had to sell tickets to friends and family, $25 tickets, and I kind of felt bad for them when they would come to the venue. I'm like, man, I would rather just not get paid than have to sell these tickets to my friends and family. And, I have people like, Robert Shapiro, for example, goes to every major boxing event with his wife, and he's in a suit and she's in a gown. Like, that's how boxing is. There's class and sophistication. MMA, you watch the UFC, the first few rows of people wearing tap-out T-shirts and like jeans and T-shirts, which is fine, but you still can't forget about again, no disrespect to NASCAR fans, but the Formula One crowd.
Right.
Same industry, two complete different demographics. So I wanted to create a platform for the Formula One crowd, the country club people, the people who actually are entrepreneurs and want to network to watch the sport in a non-threatening atmosphere.
And I have to concur with you on that. My last girlfriend was gorgeous, just stunning. And she'd want to get dressed up for the event.
Yeah.
But I go and take her to the event, and I'm fighting more than I have to fight in the ring.
Yeah.
These guys are running their mouth. And it felt like I like to attend events, especially with my kids, too. I brought my son, who's 17, and I want him to be in a friendly environment, too, an educational environment, not just an entertainment environment. And I think what your organization does is put people in that position where they feel safe and where they feel they can really explore this amazing sport instead of just having a bunch of drunk guys, yelling obscenities.
Agreed. And when I had my first show, it was at the Hard Rock Hotel in San Diego. Some things you never know how they're going to work out. And one thing that was absolutely amazing that I did not intend on was when the fights were going off, you could hear a pin drop in that room because the respect the crowd had from these casual fans that never even seen it live before. they treated the fights like it was an opera or a real show
Wow.
performance. And that was the most invigorating thing on the evening for me. I was like, this is what I want from my sport. It was so quiet. It was kind of eerie, like some of the fights in Japan, where like when someone got kicked in the face, you'd hear it bounce off the walls.
Right.
You know,
you feel
but
the percussion.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and these fans, people that come, you know, people who say, hey, Steve, who's fighting? And at the end of the day, you know, I just get some of the toughest guys that I know that are obviously licensed and sanctioned by the Athletic Commission that have never been in the UFC or never been in Bellator, because those fans can't even name 3 UFC champions in the first place. So it doesn't make any sense to have those guys involved.
And that's another thing I agree with. You're not getting these brand names. You're really getting quality. You're getting these guys that are really out there, hungry for the sport, like yourself, passionate for the sport more than, you know, being a name. And I think that gives an opportunity to people. And I think that's a great thing that you're doing for them.
Yeah, agreed. You know, I have some kids that are, you know, on the way up. Like one kid's 3-0 on this card, another kid's 4-0. But then I have another kid who his record's 4-5. All 5 of his losses were decisions. 4 of those 5 were from that show Combate Americas.
Yeah, Combate
Tough
America,
kids. Like this kid is really good, but he's 4-5.
You know what, Combate America is I'm talking to the promoter right now. I'm trying to get some of my fighters on that fight card. But I hear they treat their fighters really well.
Yes.
They take care of them. They pay. And I like organizations that have integrity.
Me too. Me too.
And like I said, I'm not talking mess about the UFC, but I just think sometimes the fighters, they want the UFC so much that they're willing to give up more than they should.
People say, oh, Steve, why don't fighters just unionize and boycott? And I always tell people, if every single fighter in the UFC said, I'm not fighting anymore, Dana White could find 100 guys to fight for free.
Right.
Because the UFC's brand name is so valuable. Just like in the NFL. There's guys that are playing the NFL for free just to say they play in the NFL.
That's right.
You know, and I have a lot of respect for what Dana White did by making the sport mainstream, but I have no respect for him now and what he's doing for the growth of the sport.
Right. And for the fighters, to me, for the fighters.
I don't like people who change. You know, they do something for the right reasons because they believe in it, then all of a sudden they forget where they came from. You know,
well, the money always influences, you know, some of your decisions or the fame. Maybe it's not even always the money or the fame, and we should never give up our integrity for popularity.
100%.
And that's a big thing, especially, you know, being a Christian and being what I stand for. It's tough. You know, I get calls from women that are, you know, I work with fashion designers that put on the event, and, you know, they're like, oh, come hang out with us, you know, a bunch of models casting, come and, you know, be a judge. I'm like, no, I can't do that.
Put myself in that position.
Yeah, not in that position, especially. And it's one thing to go and do your job and do it well, but if it's just for fun, I got to also temper myself what I'm willing to entertain as opposed to what is it that I'm really doing. When you're focused and you're motivated, because I wanted to talk about this company, you're driven for Smash Global. There's certain things that we have to submit to. In recovery, we submit to the program of not doing things our way because that got us to where we were as addicts. So we got to submit to the program, the 12 steps to Christ. For you, submitting to the direction of Smash Global. Where do you see Smash Global? Because you're driven for Smash Global. Where do you see it in the future?
I see it everywhere. You know, the first step in expansion will be to other major cities. Unfortunately, LA is the worst market in the country, just for what I'm doing, because it's there's too much going on. People don't want to spend money on big events and red carpet events. Again, there's so many red carpet events.
Right.
Whereas a good analogy is if I have a friend that's on a reality TV show, right? I hang out with him. No one really cares. No one really knows him. You know, it's not a big deal. But he gets paid like $50,000 to go do an appearance in Florida.
Right.
You know, so you take something like Smash Global and you go to Nashville, Tennessee, or Tampa or Boston, where they don't have red carpet events. Then it's like, wow, people will spend the money.
And they're more appreciative of it, right?
More appreciative.
It's more value to it.
So the value in LA is literally the celebrities in the media. It's like the Wall Street of finance, you know. So you build your foundation here and the glitz and the glam, and if you can make it perfect and acceptable, I guess, in LA, you should be able to do it anywhere with no problem.
Right. Well, that's amazing. You have an upcoming event, Smash Global 7.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Smash Global 7. It's going to be February 28th at the Tagline Complex. Amazing
venue. Yes.
Oh my God.
It's gorgeous.
I toured so many places from, the Beverly Hilton to the Paramount Studios. And I walked in Tagline and it was like breathtaking. The lighting and the facility and the staff, like they really care about
They really
you.
do. Yeah, it's interesting.
They care.
Because a lot of venues are not, I do a lot of events. A lot of venues are not like that. So
Yeah, it's not my last show. So Smash Global 5, my numbers weren't as good as the other ones. And I'm always, I guarantee like 250 people. And at the end of the night, he said, how many people did you have? And I said, I only had about 200 or 210. He literally just took off those 40 people.
Wow.
And just paid the balance on 210. And I was like, oh man, all right, this is headquarters for the rest of my life,
That's amazing.
That's very
amazing.
rare, especially in LA.
Rare. And that's why I was, especially out here, where it's cutthroat.
Very.
You don't have the money, you don't this, and they try nickel and dime you for everything nowadays.
Everything.
So for him to have done that, that's an amazing. What a blessing.
Blessing.
What a blessing.
Yeah. So the next one, it's like my marquee event. I decided that at some point I only want to have one big event, like my Super Bowl of the year. And that will be during award season, and it'll be in LA, again once a year. So this one was called Smash the Oscars. Unfortunately, the Academy sent me a cease and desist letter, so I couldn't use the word Oscar. So I changed it to award season 2018. And I'm hoping to, so I'll have 3 pro fights. Normally I honor one person. Like the last one did Chuck Liddell. And I gave Ernie Shavers a pop-up award because I want to capitalize on being there because he's such a good dude. So for this one, I'm trying to do about 5 people. So Hollywood actor, Hollywood actress, someone from martial arts, somebody from boxing, somebody from MMA, and maybe a pop-up humanitarian award.
Wow.
So we'll see as it gets closer. I know it's only a month away, but
well, I'm working on that. I'm talking to Mickey right now, Mickey Rourke, and I want him to come on and be the honoree for that night. He's he came into my studio when I was about 17 years old.
Oh, wow.
And I have a great story about it, and I'll talk about it if I bring him on. But he came into the studio, and he sat down, and I pitched him like it was anybody else. And I walked him out, and the parents of the Academy came up and said, hey, is that Mickey? Is that Mickey? And I was like, oh, yeah. I didn't know who it was. I had to go back to my computer and Google him. Found out he was 9.5 weeks, so on and so forth. But how interesting that you're also honoring somebody at your fights where you're bringing praise to their careers and the things that they've done. That, like you said, that maybe the Oscars would never recognize. Mickey's an amazing actor and had the opportunity to get for the wrestler, got nominated, but they were never going to give it to him.
No, it's funny because they did the same thing to Sylvester Stallone. They gave him the Oscar for Creed, the Golden Globe, just like Mickey got the Golden Globe.
Right.
Then the Oscars came around. They both got they were nominated, but they didn't get it.
Right, and same with Leonardo DiCaprio. They took him a long time to give that kid his Oscar, and he's earned it.
He has. He definitely has.
Well, Steve, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want you out there who are listening and viewing to find out more information. Go to smashglobal.com/tickets. Get your ticket for this event for Smash Global 7. It is February 28th here in Hollywood. You're not going to want to miss it, ladies and gentlemen. I will be there. Steve is going to have an amazing guest of lineups, amazing fights. Don't miss it. The show is coming to a close, Steve, and I got to ask you, and I ask this of all my guests, what does joy in my house mean to you in today's day and age with all the struggle and all the sensationality of it? What does joy in your house mean to you in today's day and age?
I got to say balance. Literally in your house, trying to keep it balanced and everybody happy, which is a struggle. And no one knows what goes on behind closed doors.
Right.
It's a struggle, but at the end of the day, your family is everything. And the reason why you walk out that door is so you can have a happy home.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I got to agree with that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to catch us live every Sunday here at noon with life-changing stories and talent that will inspire you. I want you guys to have a blessed day.
Joy in my house. Joy in my house. Joy. I got joy.
Thank you for tuning into LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network, original reality radio, handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Stay tuned.
Joy in my house, joy in my house, joy.